Welcome back to Nauck's Vintage Records, Vintage Record Auction 74, Nauction Highlight Reel number 2. So in number 1 we covered our 7-inch records, primarily Berliners and early gramophone pressings, and we did Nauck's collection of pre-war commercially issued American record labels. If you're interested in early labels, I would recommend this book. Unfortunately, this book was published 25 years ago and has long been out of print. If you don't have a copy, then you ought to get Alan Sutton's new book on, relatively new book, on American record companies. That's also out of print. Good luck. The nice thing about this edition, however, is it came with a CD in the back, the Arley CD, American Record Label Image Encyclopedia. This is a CD that had over 1,000 full-color record label images on it of the same sort of thing that I was showing to you in auction or in reel number 1. Though those CDs are also gone, I have made up some more where you're just going to get the label images as well as the PDF files that are on that CD. If you want a copy of that, those are $20. That'll kind of give you some a little bit more information on American record labels and the different varieties and so forth that they went through. So I certainly recommend that if you're an American label collector. So we've done the American record labels in the section. Now we're going to do the foreign label section. It's not nearly as long, but there's some very interesting things in it. So this is the book for American record labels that I just showed you. For foreign record labels, let me draw your attention to this. We've shown this in the past in auction highlight reels, but I just want to show you again. Das Bilderlexikon der deutschen Schallplatten. So basically this is a picture encyclopedia of German record labels. Now you're going to say, well, I don't really collect German records. Well, that may be true. But if you collect records based on, well, anywhere in the world, there's a very good chance that you actually are collecting German record labels, because the German record industry was huge. And they produce records for sale, for distribution, on contract, whatever, with companies all over the world. And so you're going to find record labels throughout these books, and look at these full-color, amazing images. Yes, the text is in German, but you're going to find a lot of nomenclature, a lot of terminology that is the same from one record to another. And so it becomes very easy to understand at least the technical details that Rainer Lotz talks about in this 5-volume series. I can't recommend this enough. If you are a record label collector, if early 78 RPM records are of interest to you, this is well worth the price. And just like the American record label book that Alan Sutton and I did, or his later encyclopedia, those things go in and out of print instantly. Mark was just here last week filming the Bidder Request show, and several times he was moaning the fact that he didn't buy things when they came out. You know, the 5-volume American Dance Band Encyclopedia. He'd love to have a copy of that, but it's not available anymore. The V-Disc discography. Oh, he said if I only got that when it came out. Well, he didn't, and now. So this is currently available. We have it available here to ship. But the days are going to come when it's not going to be available, and you're going to look at it and say, man, I should have done it when I had the opportunity. So this is your opportunity. I encourage you to go ahead and make that happen. All right, so enough about that. Let's go to the record labels themselves and see what we have. Okay, turn to page 9 in your catalog, commencing with lot number 542. You're going to see a section of foreign labels, mostly European and English labels. So I'm not going to go into a lengthy discussion on any of these. So we're just going to go through one after another. And this is lot number 542. 543, Bestone record. Citizen record, 544. Many of these records were pressed in Germany, even though they may be English or labels from some other country. Clarus record, 546. Da Capo, wait a minute, 545. Da Capo is 546. Famous, same color scheme, different label. 548. 549, same color scheme, different label. 550, the Imp. Why they have to stick those tax stamps on top of the design, I don't know, but there you go. I can tell you they don't soak off terribly easily. The John Bull record, and that's no bull, John. Jumbo record. This is the cheaper label imprint of Odeon. Here's a very nice jumbo label. Calliope. It's 554. 555 is Klingsor record. Klingsor was a phonograph company. This is the Polyphone label. So Polyphone was pressing Klingsor. Here's a Klingsor label with their own logo, which isn't really a logo, it's a Klingsor phonograph. Klingsor phonograph is very unusual and distinct in that it has tuned strings, like piano strings, across the opening of the horn where you open the doors of the phonograph. Supposedly these things were to resonate with the vibrations of the sound waves. Well, it's kind of hokey. Kind of not there, but they probably sold a few machines. Lyceum, 557. Lyric record, 558. That's a German record. Here's Marathon, a longer playing disc. Phonocut, play with needle and soundbox facing running track. So what's that saying is that that is a vertical cut record. 559. Operaphone record, totally different from the Operaphone label we saw in the American section. Here's a Pilot record, again featuring the Polyphone logo with the notation formerly called Polyphone record. So they are announcing to their buying public that Polyphone is no longer Polyphone, it is now Pilot. And in fact, this one, instead of printing it on the label, they just on the old Polyphone label, they have a label sticker that says Pilot is the new name under which this record will be sold shortly. Ooh, a little advance notice there. People in the know, yeah, Polyphones are going to become Pilots. Sure, that's going to be good water cooler conversation at the factory. Okay, this is lot number 563, Special Arena record. Rexophone, 564, Scala record, as in La Scala in Milan. 565. 566, Star record. Again, it's a different star label than the American star label. Unsere Plata, or Our record. 567. And finally, English, The Winner. So, just a small but interesting group of foreign labels for your consideration. So, foreign labels we just did. Let me show you one special record here that comes out of our vertical record section. This is lot number 602. A nice 16-inch Pathé. This is a label variety that one seldom sees. Very small label, very big record. Makes for a pretty striking presentation. In very nice E condition, this has a $50 minimum bid. Now let's move over to our picture record section. We've got a couple of interesting Vogues. What do we have? Oh yeah, this is a this is Vogue 733 Seville, backed with 733 Seville. So this is a Vogue error. It actually has the proper tunes on either side, but they used the picture twice instead of putting the right picture on the flip side. And so this would be a Vogue second, and I don't know if you can pick that up, it's right here. But the words Vogue second are pressed into that. Actually, they aren't part of the original pressing. They wouldn't press the record by accident and anticipate it was going to be a screw-up.
But they almost make it out.
They hot stamped Vogue second into the vinyl when they discovered the issue. And Vogue was not real concerned about throwing away all their misprints, probably because they were so expensive to make. So apparently they allowed employees to take them home. I do not have a real copy or a regular copy of Vogue 771 to refer to, but this is lot number 636 in the catalog, which either was faded because it was put up on a wall, or they missed a color in the printing like we saw earlier with that rainbow label. If you have a copy of 771 you can pull out and look at, you'll see that the color is quite different. The reason I don't necessarily think it's faded is because it's still a very vibrant image. It's not like the rest of these colors appear to be especially faded, but there are ink colors that do fade very rapidly as opposed to other colors. So it could be that it's faded, or maybe it is a printing error. You be the determinant on that if you're interested in 636. Now we have a couple of records in the auction that are American True Sound records. Now that's very interesting. True Sound is an English and European label, and they are typically flexible records such as this. But here is an American True Sound. I've never seen or heard of an American True Sound before. I happen to have two examples. They're identical in terms of the pictures. These are just samples. The music on each record is a little different. So the picture does not necessarily, or does not really reflect the music itself. The picture was really not all that important. It was, I think, just done up by the True Sound company in anticipation and hope that they would be getting a True Sound picture record off the ground here in the U.S., which never happened. But you see here at the bottom, True Sound Corporation of America, and then down here it says New York and factory sample. So this is another pretty good clue that this is not a commercially issued recording. This is a sample for just as a visual, well, kind of like that Rexall label we looked at in the last catalog. Same idea. And underneath that you can see the words made in Germany. It's a little bit difficult because of the background of the printing, but it does say made in Germany. So again, I have two of these. They both feature tri-ergon masters for the music, and if you are a picture record collector, these would be a very special and cool thing for you to pick up, because you're not going to find those in other collections. Very few picture record collectors, even advanced picture record collectors, are aware that there's such a thing as an American True Sound. All right, then we have a couple of Mercuries. These are pressed by Vogue. We have the upright Eddie, the little Mercury man, on that design, and we've got the nose picker variety of Eddie, cartoon guy, on this one. All right. Okay, then we have a couple of American picture discs. This is the Raven set. It's 2-record set. We may have shown this on a previous auction video. This set was issued, I think, in 3 different iterations, and it's all based on a combination of how the sides and pictures are put together, and that is based on the type of record changer you might be playing them on, assuming that you have a record changer. If you don't have a record changer, then there was a manual set as well. A manual set would be sides 1 and 2 on one record, 3 and 4 on the other record. That, by the way, is lot number 645 with a $400 minimum bid. Now we have a lot number 647, a very nice picture record. This is French. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of staining here. We have a little bit of separation of the lamination from the core, but still a very nice, interesting picture record with that is somewhat unusual. That's not something, especially here in the States, that you're going to run across, and not one that is readily found overseas either. A couple more European. This is the Saturn label. This is a pretty common label for European picture records. That's lot number 648. 649 is a papal record from 1950. And this includes its original sleeve. Very, very nice condition. Pope Pius XII. Here's lot number 650. Now this is an English True Sound. You see right here the True Sound logo. I believe that this would have been would have been made in Germany for the English market. And that's very typical of what a True Sound record would look like. And again, it's flexible. On those kinds of records, it can be very difficult to play them because, as you can see, they tend to warp and bend over the years. So you really kind of have to weight them down and have a pretty accommodating tone arm and stylus in order to track those. Another way to do it, however, is to record them at a very slow speed and then just digitally speed that up. All right, so that covers what we have in our picture record selection. Let's now go to our special pressing section. Special pressings are records that were not commercially issued, but were made for any number of other purposes. They could be demonstration records, advertising records, soundtrack discs, vanity pressings by somebody who wanted to record their kid playing piano, or whatever it might be. You name it, the sky's the limit. So in a special pressing section, you're going to find all kinds of interesting things. That's always a section that you want to pay particular attention to because there are gems hidden within. The special pressings in this particular catalog are all Columbias. So there's a set of 4 records, one side for each day of the week. Today is Wednesday. Oh, look! Raquel, it's Wealth and Success Wednesday.
Hump day.
Ha! All right. Well, let's see what Wednesday has to bring for us. I am excited now. So, Wealth and Success Wednesday. Tomorrow is Youth and Beauty. I'll be paying attention to that tomorrow. And so these records were published by the Right Thinking Record Company, Old National Bank Building in Spokane, Washington. Wow, so remember Raquel today. Think right. Since today is Wealth and Success Wednesday, Let's think about Pirate Gold, done by the Princeton Triangle Club Jazz Band. This is a $50 minimum bid record for lot number 658. A lot of your special pressings, not all of them, were issued in this series, which began at 1, with a P suffix. So this is 31P. The one we just looked at is 23P. So, you know, some guys might be collecting that P series. This is 95P. This is Mr. and Ms. Floyd Lacey doing grumbles. Do you know anybody who's a grumbler? Don't answer that, Raquel. Lot number 50 we're looking at here, 669. So what we just looked at, this was the previous just off-the-shelf personal label variety. Then they moved into this one. 673, here's a personal record by Guy Lombardo and his Royal Canadians, Carmen on the vocal. Song hit from the Princeton Triangle Club's comic opera The Golden Dog, She'll Come Along. $50 minimum bid on that. So sometimes even prominent, very popular artists can be appearing on these personal records, and especially at the beginning of their careers when they may have contracted for something themselves, like Lawrence Welk's very first record on a Gurney label, which he sold during his public appearances when he was just first starting out. That's now a very rare, expensive record. Here we have Guy Lombardo on a university pressing. Same thing for Rudy Valley. We've got a couple of those records when he was just a student at Yale before he launched his big showbiz career. So those things are also records that are worth picking up. Here's a really neat one. This is lot number 674, and it's inscribed, you'll see it's a regular red and gold Columbia post-war record label with no information in the bottom at all. It says, "To Bill in celebration, Ted Wallerstein." And in the runout area, in the wax, it's inscribed Columbia Recording Company, Columbia Recording Corporation, Hollywood, groundbreaking ceremony, March 1947. So this is a special pressing where the president of the company, Edward Wallerstein, gives an address in commemoration of this new big record pressing facility that they were about to build in Hollywood. So again, a very neat piece of recorded sound history. This is a record that we played on the Bitter Request show. It's got a nice Magic Notes Columbia logo backplate here. Next auction, our spring catalog auction 75, I think we're going to be featuring a section on unusual backplates. So that's going to be fun. And I don't know if you can pick this up in the runout area, Raquel. It's probably pretty hard to see.
When you tilted it that one way, yes, right there.
So you can see how that's written in the runout. It's not just like, you know, a simple little matrix number or something. They made it a point to make it neat and presentable. So instead of using the runout, or instead of using the label, they use the runout area, allowing the label to be used for Mr. Wallerstein to inscribe copies. That's something you don't see very often. Oh, this is a really cool one I wanted to show you. This is just a regular issue, Columbia A3740, just an acoustic record by Paul Specht, but a pressing that he must have ordered up for himself to sell at his appearance. So here we have Paul Specht himself, it says, and his orchestra at Lyons Corner House, J. Lyons and Company Limited, specially manufactured by the Columbia Gramophone Company, all muddled up. Isn't that nice? And then the flip side of that one has a nice Magic Notes logo on the back as well. And this texturized surface. You know, if this was totally smooth, then it might cause the record to slip on that felt turntable. By adding the texture to it, that helps it to grip a little bit better. You know, this was back in the day when records were played on machines with big, heavy tone arms with steel needles. And once you get a little wear on a record, that needle tends to catch in those grooves and slow it down. So those textured backs help to prevent that. Okay, now this is, in some respects, the rarest record in the entire auction. Feast your lens on that, Raquel. I'm going to read this little blurb here out of some record trade publication. Here is the artist lineup that goes along with it. And it says this: wishing the president a happy birthday. 4 metropolitan artists made a record in honor of President Roosevelt's 61st birthday on January 30th. From the left are Risa Stevens, Salvatore Baccaloni, Goddard Lieberson, musical director of Columbia Recording Corporation, who acted as commentator, Bidu Sayal, and Eric Leinsdorf. The record was presented to Mrs. Roosevelt at Town Hall on January 22nd to be given to the President on his birthday. A special script was prepared by the artists and only 1 disc was struck off, the master being destroyed. That's pretty significant. So, if that's to be believed, and I don't see any reason not to, this is the only copy you ever pressed. How it wound up from the White House to Larry's house, I don't have no idea. Larry Holdridge wound up with this record, and in the course of his ownership of it, was able to get 2 of these artists to actually sign the record for him. So we have Risa Stevens and Bidu Sayal having signed this sole copy of this record. A very, very interesting record with some historical import, since it was made specifically for President Roosevelt. I don't know that it was given to him. It was given to Eleanor. What she did with it, who can say? But somehow it wound up in Larry's collection. Another thing particularly interesting about this record, I don't know if you can really pick this wording up down here at the bottom, but 2 of the names, not 1, count them, 2 names are misspelled on this, the only copy of this record, going to the, I don't know, President of the United States of America, leader of the free world, and you're going to misspell Bidu's last name instead of Sayal as Sayan, and the president or the musical director of the Columbia Recording Corporation as Mr. Oh, wait, no, they got his name right. I'm sorry. They got, it was Eric Leinsdorf that they misspelled as Limesdorf. Either way, I mean, ridiculous. That guy should have been taken out and summarily dismissed. Marched to the parking lot with his pink slip. Ridiculous. How'd that get by somebody, huh? What do you think, Raquel? We wouldn't put up with that Nauck in his records.
Absolutely not. We have never misspelled any words in this company.
No, never misspelled or mispronounced. I mean, let's just be out with it, right? We wouldn't ever do that. President Roosevelt. All right, lot number 687. Oh, by the way, that was lot number 685 with a $1,000 minimum bid. And we did play that on the Bidder Request show, by the way, so you'll be able to hear what that was all about. Lot number 687. Another Guy Lombardo record from another Princeton Triangle Club selection from a show. This Princeton Triangle Club show was Jimmy Stewart's debut as an actor when he was in college. So that is a cool disc right there. We played that on the show. That was $50 minimum bid, lot number 687. Okay, and then we have Delmarva, another special pressing. Delmarva, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, regarding a particular region in that part of the country, which is, it was, maybe it still is, I don't know, a kind of a destination vacation spot. And here we have something that is a paste over label of a regular recording. This record is specially made for Mr. John Stenzel, Windsor, Colorado. Dance music. So that's just a Columbia record with a special label put on for him. I guess if you couldn't afford to make your own record or have somebody make it for you, you just got some labels printed up. All right, here we have a record made for the Virginia Polytechnic Institute. You'll find a lot of university, college stuff on these labels, fight songs and that sort of thing. This is a record that I had wanted to play on the Bitter Request show, and it just skipped my notice. Detroit Story. This is a Detroit real estate promo. And I dare say that whatever he has to say in this record no longer applies. We'll just leave it go with that. Made, again, this was not something for sale. This was made specifically for a business purpose, so no attempt there at any kind of a fancy label. All right, our kiddie record section. Let's jump over to that. Here's the Talon-Tune record. Talon-Tune records were sold in a cardboard box with a puppet. And so the puppet in this particular box would have been Tunga. This would have been Tunga from the Congo. Another one is Jambo the Jiver, and then there's a couple of others. So if you had the complete set, you would have Tunga from the Congo that you could activate your little puppet skills and play the record as background music. Wouldn't that be fun? Not easy records to find, but with the puppet, extremely hard to find. I've had one boxed set in the past. This is a 3-record set published by Victor. Songs for Little People. It was a little children's album with a very nice little illustrated label. And this was published and released in Canada as well. This is the American version here. Okay, here is a record or an album from which we selected a record to play on the Bitter Request show. We played the King Cole Trio singing Kimo Kaimo. Very nice little song. This was recorded August 1948. I don't recall ever seeing a King Cole children's album before, but as a King Cole nut, I love his music. I thought that was really cool, and so we had to play at least one selection from that for the show. And then just a couple more things out of the children's record. I'm not going to take this out of the plastic bag. Is that reflecting too bad?
Nope. So
here we have Little Black Sambo. Columbia Records with a very nice original gatefold picture sleeve. So if I was to take this out, I would be able to open it up. You'd be able to see the inside. Here's Mr. and Mrs. Sambo and their big old pile of pancakes, along with tiger butter, no doubt. And so that's pretty cool. I don't remember what the minimum bid on that is, probably $50, lot number 713, in really nice shape. You know, children's records, especially like this, tend to get kicked around, you know, skated across, drawn all over, you name it. But this one is, I believe, in E- condition, so it's got a really nice condition sleeve, and the record is nice as well. Okay, let's move over to our test pressing section. You know, one of the objectives that I have around here, and Raquel can certainly verify this, is getting this place picked up. We have too much crap all over the place, laying everywhere, moving stuff from one place to another to make room for whatever it is that we need to be doing at the moment. And so I just recently cleared out a whole bunch of audio equipment on eBay, some really nice Macintosh amps and turntables, and you name it. So that was a big deal. At least for us it was a big deal. And then we're doing the same thing back in the archives. We have piles of records back there that have been around for 20 or 30 years, and it's just time to do something with them. And there's a lot of test pressings. And so this auction, we are featuring 10-inch Gramophone Company test pressings and 12-inch Columbia test pressings. Most of these are actually classical and operatic in nature, but not all. So you'll want to check them out. You will find those on page 12. So these are all shellac test pressings, not vinyl. And I've just picked out a couple here as representative selections to kind of show you what they look like. So here we have lot number 756, which is an original test pressing of this recording from August 24th, 1934, featuring John McCormick doing a song called Music of the Night. That is not Phantom of the Opera Music of the Night. This is a different Music of the Night. And this is unreleased take of that, take 1. Take 2 is the take that was actually issued. And that's the nice thing about test pressings, is that you can find unissued music that you're never going to get anywhere else, and very likely never hear. You may stumble across a test pressing that's never been reissued in any other format or put on YouTube or what have you. I don't know if this was or not, but it certainly was not issued as a 78. Single-sided pressing, and there you have it. Not for sale, of course, on the label, and then all the information typewritten. Usually, you'll have, on earlier test pressings, they're not putting all this business up on top, so they have the whole label area in which to write information. They didn't have that, since they have all this business going on in the upper half, so they had to type it out and glue it on instead. Now, this is a later test pressing of an earlier recording. This is a Nellie Melba test pressing that would have been done in the 1950s of a 1921 recording, which was unissued. So that's a nice item. I do not recall what the minimum bid amounts on either one of those are. That was lot number 763 on the Melba, 756 on the McCormick. We haven't actually lotted those yet, so I had to pull those directly off the shelf and lot them myself. But Raquel's working on it. We're getting it done. From the 12-inch section, we have Columbias, as I said. Here is one. Looks like this one has a $50 minimum bid. Lot 891. And that is La Gitana by a couple of people that with words too small for me to read. But you will find it as lot number 891. That's the Gypsy. And that, if you ever see one of these record sleeves, this is a very old Nauck vintage record sleeve that we were using back in the 1990s, before discophiles were invented. All right, lot number 893 is from our vinyl test pressing section. So this is primarily pop, jazz, blues, whatever type music. Some of them have no label at all, such as this. You have no idea what this is other than the matrix number in the runout area. This particular record is lot number 893 by Kid Prince Moore and ARC, unissued matrix. So this you will not find on a commercially labeled disc. You will only find it in a test pressing. So if you're interested in blues music by that artist, this is your opportunity to fill in that slot. $150 minimum bid. And somebody has written on the blank side with a white label some information concerning that record. This is a somewhat earlier vinyl test pressing. This is very likely a record that might have been pressed up with for audition purposes, like maybe somebody wanted to do an LP reissue of some 78 sides, so they would have pressed these up for that individual to be able to audition the records as to whether or not they wanted to include that in the reissue, and perhaps pick out which take they liked the best, or whatever. And it may not have been done for that purpose at all, but certainly we do see that use for records like this with this particular RCA Victor label. This right here is a Hollywood disc. Oh, this is the Joan Crawford disc, recorded 1939 in Hollywood, of a record that was not commercially issued. $100 minimum bid on that. So those are just a few things to kind of give you an idea what those test pressings might look like in our test pressing section from this catalog. Now let's talk about instantaneous records. Instantaneous records are records that were recorded instantaneously. Really, all records are recorded instantaneously. But what it means in this particular situation is that the record, once it's been recorded, is at that moment ready to be played. Whereas if you were recording something commercially, you might be recording onto a wax blank disc or cylinder, and that would have to be plated and the process gone through in order to create a metal stamper to press a record that you could listen to. If you were to play the wax that was recorded, you would ruin it. You would hear it one time and that would be it. And sometimes they did that just to make sure that the mics were set up properly, or that the artist was sufficiently positioned in front of the recording horn or what have you. But an instantaneous record is a record that's designed to be listened to immediately and used either for archival purposes or broadcast purposes, but not typically designed to be sold. So our instantaneous record section is going to be filled with all kinds of strange things, great things, lousy things, things that we have no idea what the heck they are because there's no information written on them. But it's always a total mishmash grab bag of stuff. So that's another one of those sections that you want to look at carefully in each auction catalog, because there are going to be some hidden gems in there that you may very well be interested in. I've just pulled out a couple that I thought were kind of interesting. This is lot number 997. It says KCBS line check from Club Hangover, which was an actual nightclub in San Francisco. This was a line check, which meant that in this particular case, you had Jack Teagarden and his All-Stars playing in San Francisco. The signal carried over the phone line to station KCBS in Kansas City, where it was broadcast over the airways on that station. So, this is not something that would have been recorded, or at least recorded to be issued. This is something that was recorded over the line, over the telephone line, there at the radio studio. Again, not anything particularly notable about the label. It was probably just some technician at the studio who wanted a copy of this for his own personal enjoyment. That line coming into the studio would have been broadcast, so they would not have needed to make recordings of that in order to broadcast, unless they wanted to broadcast it at a different time. So this is something that the guy just did up himself, probably just to take home and have for his own collection. Club Hangover. All right, here's a similar situation, except instead of radio, this is actually a television air check. All right, television recordings are much rarer than radio recordings. They didn't, especially in the early years, tend to be archived, and nobody was out there really recording them. Sometimes they would do kinescopes, where you would set up a movie projector in front of a video monitor, or like a TV screen, and record the TV program right there off of the screen that's being broadcast to. Kind of a primitive way of doing it, but effective, and it gives us a representation of what that TV show was all about. We can see the sound and hear the audio. It's just not going to be in quite the same quality. This is not a kinescope, obviously. This is a instantaneous disc recording. But it features Gene Krupa and his orchestra. It's from the TV Cavalcade of Bands, which was a Dumont TV production. This was from February 13th, 1951. We hear Gene Krupa with Buddy Rogers, who is a very prominent actor at that time, also known as America's Boyfriend. But he was a very accomplished musician. And this 12th Street Rag piece is something that you would see. You can pull it up on YouTube and get like 3 or 4 different versions of him doing the same routine with different orchestras at different times, where he starts out leading the band, and then he starts running around the band and grabbing instruments from guys and playing them. So he's going around doing little solos on all these different instruments. And I wasn't familiar with that. When I heard this and it said featuring Buddy Rogers, and somebody wrote in here playing all various instruments, I thought, whoever's playing those instrumental solos knows what they're doing. Was Buddy Rogers, the actor, really that good a musician? Apparently he was, because you can see him on the internet doing that very thing. So anyway, because at this period of time, especially 1951, these programs weren't being recorded or archived, this is very likely the only surviving copy of that particular performance. You'll notice that this side is nice and shiny clean. This side has what we call palmitic acid, which exudes out of the lacquer itself. This is a very common thing you see in radio or in instantaneous recordings. It can be cleaned off pretty easily with a little bit of elbow grease and the right solution. And so we clean the one side because we played that. We didn't bother with the other. Here is another set of important instantaneous discs. This is a set of 3 12-inch two-sided recordings of the Nikolai Medtner 3 piano concerti. He wrote 3 concerti in his career, and I believe that this is him on the piano playing all 3 of these. I wanted to play one of these on the Bitter Request show or even in a bonus hour, but we totally filled the disc, and there is no more room for a selection as long as any of these would have been. So we were not able to do so. But those are very, very good concerti. A couple of them sound a lot like something Rachmaninoff would have done in that same kind of style. So if you want to hear those, you can pull up performances on the internet. You may even pull up this actual performance here. I'm not sure about that. But that has a $100 minimum bid. There are some areas in the front of those, a couple of those discs or sides where the stylus was lifting off the disc a little bit at a couple of spots. And those are hard to track, but I've got a turntable back here with a extra long SME tone arm that's fluid damped, and I was able to track those. So it is possible if you have the equipment that will enable you to do it. Okay, in a couple of catalogs in the past, we have featured a section of instantaneous records from Lily Pawn's personal collection. These are records that I also got from Larry Holdridge. I may have mentioned in our last auction's highlight reel that Larry passed away earlier this year. A great loss to the record collecting community. He was an amazing man, personally and professionally. Very kind, very generous, very helpful to me in my career as a record dealer with the operatic stuff in particular, of which I was fully ignorant. Now I'm only partially ignorant. But he was just a gem of a person and a walking encyclopedia of early operatic material. I bought 30,000 records from him 3 or 4 years ago, which we are still working our way through. But I cleaned out his garage and his basement, and these are records that he had culled out of many, many other collections. And so everything was basically grading E- or better, just beautiful copies. And the vast majority of the records that you see in the current catalog in the operatic section, and largely in the classical section as well, and the album sets, would have come from him. But there were some really interesting things in that group of records that I purchased, including a lot of instantaneous material. He didn't really do much with that kind of stuff. So I was very happy to get Lily Pond's personal archive of her broadcast performances. These are records that she had made up. She was a very significant, very popular operatic soprano here in the United States. She made her Carnegie Hall debut, or no, her Metropolitan Opera debut, I think in 1931 or 32, in the role of Lucia from Lucia de Lammermoor. And over the course of her career at the Met, I think she recorded or performed 93 performances as Lucia over a 30-plus year period of time. So it was a role that she became well known for. So I have in this catalog actually 4 different complete Met Lucia broadcasts that came from her collection. So I will share one of those with you. 2 of these sets actually include albums that the records were stored in. So this is one of those albums. It's just a blank album that she chose to use, but on the spine it says, whatever it says, Lucia. It's got the recording date, in this case volume 1 and 2, because it takes 2 of these albums to hold all of the records. And this is what the records look like. Some of the stuff that I got in her archive, a lot of them were on this Carnegie Hall Recording Corporation label. As you see here, with this is all printed on the label slug, and then all of the specific information was typewritten on. Do you see a date and time for that, Raquel?
Let's see. January 17th, 1940, it looks like.
Okay.
And it says 2 to 4, I think 15 p.m.
Okay, so the Metropolitan Opera broadcasts are something that most of our older bidders are fully familiar with. This went on for decades. They were broadcast on Saturday afternoons. I remember as a kid listening to them. Probably not necessarily with terribly much interest, because opera music for me over the radio is not that exciting, because a lot of it isn't terribly melodic, a lot of recitative and so forth. So if you don't really know the story or speak the language, it can be just noise to me anyway. I love to go to the opera where I can see the full thing, but just listening to it over the radio wasn't terribly exciting for me. But for a lot of people it is, and that was a very, very popular broadcast. And, you know, I guess it still is. Our public radio station no longer plays that kind of stuff, so I don't know if it's still going or not. I would assume so. But during this period of time, Milton Cross was the announcer, a very, very distinctive voice. You know him every time you hear him. And he announces these broadcasts of hers that I have in the current auction. One of these is very interesting. It's not this particular one, but it's another one dated January 1st, which is when the performance was made, but the broadcast was preempted by the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day. So the performance was actually broadcast from instantaneous discs on January the 2nd instead of January 1st, as it would have been broadcast live at that time. And she didn't quite hit the high F in the Mad scene, and so they dubbed in another high F of hers into the recording. And so when it was broadcast on January 2nd, she hit it. And we actually played that particular side in the Bidder Request Show. So if you have an interest in that, you might tune in. And we do something else with another one of her records. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's a lot of fun. So you're going to want to listen in to hear what that's all about. Okay, now let's go to some other sections of the instantaneous record section. There's a set of these Warner Brothers discs. These were movie production discs. We've talked about that in the past several times. These are records that were used in the production and filming of motion pictures. They can be dialogue, they can be musical, they can be sound effects, any number of different things in order to create the soundtrack for a film, or in some cases create the visual. So you might have a song from a movie which would be played with the performers acting being filmed, and then the song and the film would be linked up. When you see somebody singing in a film or playing an instrument, typically you're not hearing whatever they're doing, if they're doing anything, because you don't have the mic setup necessary to be able to film without the mic being in the picture. So the song is recorded, the film is done, and then they're put together. So these song demos or musical tracks that you find on these movie production discs would have been used to play the music or that person singing the song so that that person could lip sync with his own song for the movie. So that's what you would have. In other cases, maybe the songs are performed or recorded to circulate among movie executives or other persons involved in production to determine if this is even a song that we want to put into the movie. So sometimes you'll get a movie production disc with a song from a particular show that doesn't actually appear in the film because they chose not to use it. So there's a lot of very cool stuff that we see on these movie production discs. This particular one we did play on the show. This is Doris Day and Gordon McRae singing the military polka for the movie West Point Story. Very good recording, a great song, and a killer label. So that's a very neat record that you might consider bidding on. Here is a 16-inch example of a movie production disc. Again, this has a lot of palmitic acid on it, but like I say, that can be cleaned off. We see a lot of different takes here. In each one of these, you'll hear some speaking, you'll hear the clap of the what do they call that thing? The clap of the thing that you see in movies. Do you know?
I do not know.
Raquel does not know, but that's okay. We do not hire Raquel based on her knowledge of cultural phenomena, fortunately.
Because I live under a rock. Because
she lives under a rock. But fortunately, sometimes she crawls out of a rock and comes here to help us out, and we are very grateful for that. So anyway, these are all cuts of Jimmy Stewart in a particular scene with another guy, and they just do it over and over and over, and sometimes they'll laugh, sometimes somebody will say, no, don't do it that, or do this, and so forth. So it's really interesting to listen to these things and hear these guys just talking there in the studio in various ways about what's working, what's not working, let's try this, let's try that, let's add some music, and so forth. We were going to actually play a couple of these on the Bitter Request show, but just did not have the time for it. Brian, who is a guy who does all of our instantaneous stuff because he's very knowledgeable about both film and radio, believes that these are from the Glenn Miller Story film. And there are some musical selections included on this disc, so that might be interesting to somebody who's interested in big band music. Okay, another one. Okay, this is very much like one of the sound movie production discs, except this is TV. This is from the Walt Disney serial on TV Zorro in the late 1950s. And this was written by a woman who was actually Walt Disney's personal nurse. He had a very serious injury in the 1930s, and she helped nurse him back to health. And she went on to become his personal confidant and a writer of songs. She wrote over 90 songs for various Disney productions, and this is one of them, Soldier's Sweetheart. So you see here a really fabulous label in great shape. Song doesn't take up much space. It's only a verse or two right out here at the edge. 33 RPM, so there was a lot of recording area left on this disc. But you see that frequently, where you've got just a little bit of recording space taken up on an instantaneous record. It's from November 5th, 1958, $25 minimum bid. Okay, so that covers our instantaneous record section and our movie production disc section. Well, not quite. There is one more movie production thing we will get to. But first, let's go to our soundtrack section. Movies figure very prominently in Auction 74. We've got a lot of soundtrack discs and some very important and significant and interesting ones. First up, lot number 1158 with a minimum bid of $500. This is Mae Questel, Betty Boop, who normally would have been recording 20 or 30 years earlier, or 20 years earlier, I guess. Here we have a recording from the 1950s. Let's see if we got a date on here. Looks like it's from a show called Goodbye My Fancy. But here she sings Button Up Your Overcoat, a song that she's very, very much known for. She does her whole boop-boop-a-doop thing. And she's doing that song in two different selections. So we have two bands here. The outer band, she's singing it a cappella. And the inner band, she's singing it with an orchestra. And so I don't know which of those versions they actually decided to use for the show. But for a collector of Betty Boop items, this is a unique piece that you're not going to find anywhere else. A very, very cool record, and therefore the $500 minimum bid. We played the a cappella version of that particular tune on the show. We played this record as well. This is lot number 1159, Matty Malneck's orchestra, doing St. Louis Blues, and I think he was doing that perhaps for the movie The St. Louis Blues. This is interesting because unlike other movie discs that were intended to go along with the film, the one that we just looked at, I think, is more of a sound effects disc for the film. Like maybe she was singing it and they were going to broadcast it over a radio or something. I'm not sure. I haven't seen a movie. This was, I think, to be used in the movie, but it was also used as an exploitation record and went along with a film, because out here at the edge, I don't know if you can catch this, Raquel, but there's a tiny word start with an arrow which tells you where to set the stylus in order to sync this up with a film element.
I can catch it.
We wouldn't have any indication that this was actually a soundtrack disc that went with a film if it weren't for that little indication right there with that start arrow. So Matty Malneck did record St. Louis Blues, and it was issued on Decca, but that is a different recording from what we have here. So we looked at that label in the first highlights reel of the Publix label, which I mentioned was a lobby promo for a Publix theater for a particular film that might have been showing there at that time. And I mentioned that we do have a section of those in this catalog, and here we go with that. So we're going to start off with this. These swell numbers from Many Happy Returns, a Paramount picture. Guy Lombardo and his Royal Canadians, George Burns and Gracie Allen. The Sweetest Music This Side of Heaven. That was Lombardo's theme song, and we actually played him doing that song on the Bitter Request Show. Lot number 1188. This is a paste over of Brunswick 6874 to be used kind of as an film exploitation record. The condition isn't all that great. It's V-, but that's still a label that you're not going to see elsewhere. Here we have the label on this side that's been torn off to reveal a test pressing label below. But most of them you're going to see are going to look like this. Columbia did a lot of these. There was a special series devoted to them. Again, it had a -P suffix, but it was in the 1000 number block. So this is another series that people enjoy collecting. Again, these are not by the artists who would have performed these selections in the movie. These are typical studio artists and singers who will perform the selection. But still, it's from the show, and again, made to be sold in lobbies. Now, this is your typical generic lobby label. There's no particular studio or theater chain mentioned on here. You just have the theatrical masks up here at the top, whereas this one is a special label that was done for MGM. So if you were in an MGM theater, this is the label on the lobby promo that you would be purchasing. And it came both the black and gold like this, as well as a kind of an orange, white, and blue label, which we do have some in the catalog, but I did not pull one out to show you. This is lot number 1209. And then here's one that's not done by Columbia. These, I think, are cameo pressings. Theater Goer's Record. This is from Little Nellie Kelly, and so forth. Again, this is a paste over of Cameo 256, and another one in a slightly different color. Same idea. And then finally we have this one, which is a lobby promo. Golden Dawn was the name of the show. Gems from Golden Dawn. This is the only one of the on this kind of label that I've ever seen. I think it's the only one I've ever seen. Anyway, the catalog number is S1, so it's, if they did more than that, they didn't do many. All right, and then I mentioned we did have a song demo section / movie production disc deal. I talked about how the songs would be recorded and how they would be used in the production of a movie. We have a section devoted to those. These are actually shellac pressings, however, and not instantaneous records. The ones that we have in this particular catalog all derive from 20th Century Fox. We've had other sections of these sorts of records from other studios in the past, but it's 20th Century Fox we're featuring this time. And you'll find a number of these featuring Alice Faye, Ethel Merman, the Ink Spots, Carmen Miranda, and so forth. So a lot of interesting things there. Again, these are typically going to be songs that you are not going to be able to find by these particular artists in terms of a commercially issued pressing. So if you happen to want to have a copy of Carmen Miranda doing Tutti Frutti Hat, you're probably only going to get it on this song demo disc, which means you better buy it now because you're never going to have another opportunity at one. This one says Blue Skies is the title of the song, but it's for Alexander's Ragtime Band, which is the film, and it says Ethel Merman, Alice Faye, Ensemble, and Orchestra. So I pulled this out to play for the Bitter Request show. As it turns out, however, this is not a duet, as the label might indicate. What this is, actually, is, though you don't know it by looking at it, when you play it, you find out Ethel Merman does the song, and then there's a break, and then Alice Faye does the song. So we have each lady doing her own version of that song. Were both of those songs actually appearing in Alexander's Ragtime Band? I don't know. I haven't listened to it. But it's a 1938 picture and available, so you can check this out for yourself. And now, Raquel, I think we are going to take a break while I go get the big stuff, and we will be right back. Okay, so we are back. Just a momentary brief pause there to get set up with our soundtrack discs and go fill our bellies at the taco truck, which we like to do here in spring. And if you're ever in spring and care to join us at the taco truck, give us a call. Be happy to take you. All right, so we are going to start off on page 17. We already looked at 10-inch 1158, Goodbye My Fancy was the name of the show. May Questel Button Up Your Overcoat. We looked at Matty Melnick. And now we're going to look at, looks like one or two 12-inch records. All right, so 1161, behind that curtain, Advanced Trailers. So that is this disc here. A lot of soundtrack discs you will see crayon or wax pencil in the runout area with a title or other information. Here you have behind that curtain, it says, and also scratched into the wax, and the arrow pointing to the groove where you set your stylus in order to go into the film. And that is a trailer for the third of 47 Charlie Chan mysteries. So that's pretty cool. If you're a Charlie Chan fan, then you'll want to add that to your collection. Next up is a 14-inch disc, it looks like. Lot number 1163. This is the trailer for Kid Gloves, a 1929 gangster romance film. Mark writes here on the sleeve, silent and Vitaphone synced sound with some dialogue. So that's kind of like Blue Skies with Al Jolson. Or not Blue Skies, the jazz singer, where he sings Blue Skies. You got a little bit of music, some sound effects, a little bit of dialogue, but it's not a full-blown deal. So you'll see on this disc, same thing. Wax pencil, arrow to point the deal, to place the stylus. A lot of these discs, you'll see this little an area where you can check off how many times the disc has been played, because after the 20th time, they say it is time to replace the disc. Those were pretty heavy tone arm assemblies on those Vitaphone turntables, and you didn't get a whole lot of plays out of them. So that was a that was a 12-inch disc as well. This one is closer to a 14. This is lot number 1162, the Paramount Publics Corporation, Hollywood on Parade. Nothing much to see here, just a blank label. You'll see information in the run-out area as you do on most of these. But I just show this to you because there's going to be somebody interested in this. This is the show that features Frederick March, Master of Ceremonies, 11-year-old Mitzi Green, Ginger Rogers and Jack Oakey, the Brock sisters, and Jack Duffy and Eddie Peabody, all on this disc from August 2nd, 1932. So you'll hear performances by these individuals. It's a musical disc. There is acting to go along with it. You can go on YouTube and just search Hollywood on Parade for that that particular show, and you'll see the what that's all about. Very cool record. Here is, okay, this is a Little Rascals film. I don't know about you, but I grew up watching Little Rascals, or Our Gang, and this is from one of those, Lazy Days, a Hal Roach comedy, and very cool disc. Now this one actually goes all the way up to 40 plays. So either they did the process a little bit better, or perhaps they relaxed their requirements. Okay, this is interesting. This actually has the film element as well, which I'm not going to show you because it's just the film inside of a modern day aluminum film can. So nothing much to see on that. But it is the original film with this original Vitaphone disc. Again, wax pencil, arrow to start the deal. This is Arden and Omen in a short where they play, I think, 3 different selections. I believe we put this in one of the bonus hours on the Bitter Request show. So you'll be able to hear them play if you buy the Bitter Request show CD. All right, those are some instantaneous discs. But this is lot 1164, which is telefilm pictures. I have no idea what this is for. It doesn't indicate it on the in the runout area, and it only has some music and effects. No big deal on that one. I'm showing these because 16-inch soundtrack labels is something we don't see much of, so this is a good opportunity to help rectify that. This would be 1166. This is a Pathé soundtrack disc for Reel 4 for a Pathé French film. So there we have a foreign soundtrack disc. This is a Fox film in Old Arizona, music and dialogue, lot number 1167. Here is a Tiffany Tone. Tiffany Tone Films, a Tiffany Color Symphony in a Persian Market, lot number 1168. Another French soundtrack disc. Lilas Blanc, lot number 1173. Most of these discs, that the ordinary ones that I'm showing you like this, only have minimum bids of $10 or $15 because they're only music or only sound effects or maybe just single reels from a feature film or something. So maybe not a whole lot of value, but you know, you might want to add a 16-inch soundtrack disc to your collection just to have one. Now this is pretty cool. This is a 16-inch Flexo movie soundtrack. I dare say you have never seen one of these before. I've only seen a couple. In fact, 16-inch Flexos are very rare. I've had maybe 10, and they all came from one storage locker in Atlanta. So I don't know where all the rest of them are, but these are scarce birds. So you'll see at the bottom, Hollywood Film Enterprises, The Lion's Roar. And if I'm not mistaken, as I recall when I played this, each side of this is the same, which means it would have been a 15-minute short, and they gave you two sides so that it wouldn't wear out as fast. 322. Yeah, the matrix is 322 on both sides, so it's the same recording on each deal. Your you know, obviously Flexo pressings are very desirable amongst collectors. That one has got a $250 minimum bid. I would be quite surprised if it actually sold for that. Here's another one of those French things. Pathé with the L and A at the top. I don't know what that stands for. That's lot number 1175. Here's a movie horoscope series by Fitzpatrick Pictures in New York. People born in July. So you got music and dialogue here. That's not lot number 1176. Speaking of horoscope, this coming Saturday is the Great American Annular Eclipse of 2023. I'm going to be driving to San Antonio to watch that here in a couple of days. Looking very forward to it. And that is a sign in the heavens, which I believe actually does have some meaning. But we don't have time to get into that. Lot number 1177. Rain film or Rhine film. Napoleon. This is from Argentina. You see it says Buenos Aires on the label. I would have picked this up in one of my trips to South America. A film called Naughty Baby by First National Pictures in 1928. Most of these were pressed either by Victor or Columbia. And they usually will say on the record what that would be. Monogram Pictures. Oklahoma Gem. This is 1180. Okay, according to the catalog, it says lots of Indian drums and so forth. Okay, next up we have a German Artiphone record. It's lot number 1181. Music and singing on that one. And this is a record that's been around in the shop for a long time. Sono Art, Worldwide Pictures, Up the Congo. It's lot number 1183. It's got a label tear on that side, but this side, as you can see, is fine. Although they did put the label on the record all wonky. Can you believe that they would have done that? Hard to read that way. That's a joke, Kel.
Haha.
Monogram. Another Monogram Pictures. 1184. Vitaphone by Albert Spalding on violin. Lot number 1183. Minimum bid $250 on that. Another one that I had wanted to play during the Bitter Request show. Didn't have time to get to it. And this is the original sleeve for that particular disc. Not anything particularly special, but a little number and notification up here at the top. Okay, here are a couple of records that we had skipped over because they were set aside elsewhere. Beautiful copy of this particular Hal Roach comedy, MGM label Angora Love, which was a Laurel and Hardy disc from 1928. Unfortunately, this is only music and effects. There's no speaking on this, so it went with one of their silent films. No speaking in this particular show. But if you're a Laurel and Hardy collector, that would be a cool record to own. That has a $100 minimum bid. And then this one is on the Wardor Films label, lot number 1167. This is the K.O. Kid, which is an animated short. This is an English Columbia pressing. And the reason that this is interesting, looking here in the catalog, it says this was originally released as Jack the Giant Killer, a Newman Laughogram silent short film from 1922. The film was re-released in 1929 with this soundtrack. The story was written and animated by Walt Disney and his team of Iwerks, Ising, Maxwell, Tagu, and Wallman. Boy, those are some interesting names. Wallaman. All right. Iwerks, Ising, Maxwell, Tagu, and Wallaman. And I am sure that at least one or two of those were not pronounced correctly. But somebody will figure it out. $250 minimum bid on that particular record. Early Disney-related soundtrack. All right, so that takes us out of our soundtrack disc section. Let's look at a couple of things in the foreign and ethnic category. We'll start off with this record right here, or this album set. The Golden Voice of Israel on Victor Records. We have here three very famous, important Jewish cantors, including the greatest of the 20th century cantors, Joseph Rosenblatt. And we played that one of his recordings in this set on the Bitter Request show. Here is here's the label. It's kind of difficult because the gold has oxidized a bit, so it's hard to read. But this is Ya Ale by Cantor Rosenblatt and his son Henry, who made a few recordings on his own. So that's kind of cool, and a very rare set, and you can see in just beautiful condition. I mean, look at that album. The spine and everything is just really, really nice. But I'll tell you what makes this especially special is the autograph right here on the inside. Harold Arlen, famous songwriter. This came out of his personal collection. He was Jewish and wrote a lot of great Tin Pan Alley stuff. So that is a very, very nice album set. Here we've got some amazing Japanese records. Look at this. Is that not wonderful or what? The American Record. That is lot number 1350. It comes with a $50 minimum bid. And you can't really, you might not be able to see it, but it's the paper itself has little striations or ridges that go horizontal, so it's kind of a textured paper. But really a pretty label. And now this is a very interesting one. I picked this up many, many years ago. Lot number 1347. An extremely early Japanese recording on a Columbia Black and Silver label. Now, how many of those have you seen? Have you seen any of those, Raquel?
This is the coolest record, in my opinion, in terms of appearance in the entire auction.
Wow. And she would know because she's been plotting the entire auction. It is a very cool record, and especially if you're familiar with Columbia Black and Silver label issues, how they changed up that design to incorporate the Japanese characters. Very nice. Here is a gold and black Columbia Grand Prize label for the Japanese series. $50 minimum bid on that. And then look at the label on the flip side. Very, very cool. Here's another one of these labels with the globe and the sun and the moon and the star above it. Very interesting. Now this is my favorite label in the entire catalog. This is the Hikoki. Is that Hikoki or Hiroki? Hikoki record. With that fabulous biplane on there. Imperial Gramophone Company. Wow. How cool is that? It doesn't get much cooler than that. It has a $250 minimum bid. Not as cool is the Mikado phone, which has the little, what do you call these little carts that they use to haul people around in? I don't know. Charlie Chan would know. But anyway, it's got one of those on it. This is kind of neat. Polar bear standing on the North Pole. National record. Tell you, Japan really did some pretty amazing record labels. Here we have Nipponophone with the eagle there. That's very nice. But what's much nicer is the Nipponophone sleeve. With the original record slip. Let's pull that out. Look at this. Isn't that great? You got your outside horn machine down here, blaring forth its music to the seated Buddha who leans over to hear what's being played. That's just wonderful. And then here's your record slip that goes along with that. I guess you can sing along if you know what that says. I have no idea. But anyhow, that is certainly probably the coolest record sleeve in the auction. Okay, Paradise record. Kind of hard to make this out, but this is actually an angel. $13.57, $50 minimum. This is a cool label just in terms of the colors and the contrast on it. The Toa record with a white dove. Isn't that beautiful? Mm-hmm. Really, really nice. Very, very attractive, catchy label with that white and deep navy blue field. And here we have a Victor. Another one. Victor Patents label. And that covers it for our foreign stuff. Now we're going to go into spoken word. And we're going to start with this linguaphone. Linguaphone records are recordings to help one learn a foreign language, and your foreign language might be English. In this case, this is an English linguaphone set. And here you have At the Tobacconist's. That is like a cigar shop, smoke shop. And fairly unremarkable record, except for one very important feature, and that is the fact that this is J.R.R. Tolkien's very first recording from 1930. He was asked to do a couple of linguaphone sides, and he did. And in this particular set, there would be 2 sides by Mr. Tolkien. We are offering this one record in this catalog. We did play this at the on the show, and he is joined here by Professor A. Lloyd James. Mr. Tolkien is the customer who walks into the smoke shop, and Mr. James is the one who is helping him. And TolkienLibrary.com, I went on their website yesterday. They were selling one of these for $1,950. Actually, that may have been for the entire set. Even so, that's kind of ridiculous. Minimum bid on this record is $75. It'll certainly sell for more than $75, but I don't think it's going to break $2,000. All right, National Vocarium. We've sold some of these in the past. They are very cool records. This is lot 3366 for $100. Here we have Phineas T. Barnum with some early recollections by Professor William Lyon Phelps in 1940. This is a cylinder that Barnum recorded in 1890. So if you are a circus collector, this would be something that you should have great interest in. It's, to my knowledge, I think it may be the only recording of P.T. Barnum's voice. And he is to circuses what Edison is to the phonograph for all intents and purposes. Okay, we did play this record on the Bitter Request show. This is Arthur Conan Doyle Speaking. A 2-sided disc. We played both sides of this. Obviously, the author of the Sherlock Holmes series. Holmes. It's Holmes, Watson. Not Holmes. Get it right. Okay, another linguaphone disc. We saw William Lyon Phelps introducing the P.T. Barnum record. Here we have him doing his own recording on The Joy of Teaching. He was a professor. And also Interlude on Cats. And we sold us a copy of this set a few auctions back. We had played Interlude on Cats on the Bitter Request show and people went nutso. And it wound up selling for, I don't know, $300 or something. I don't know what this is, what the minimum bid is on these, but probably around $50, I would guess. It's got the very nice original album with Mr. Phelps up here. Okay. I hope that we are showing things that are of interest to our viewers. If you like what you see, let us know. Okay. Now, we're about to get into one of the most interesting and, depending on how you define it, perhaps most important sections of the auction, and that is the historical section. So each catalog that we do, we feature historical recordings. Sometimes it's just a mixed bag of stuff: kings, presidents, politicians of various sorts, what have you. So other times we have a theme, and this time we do have a theme. It's World War II. Now, we've done World War II themes in the past because those records turn up frequently, but I don't think we've ever had anywhere near the number of records and as interesting or as rare records as we have this time around. So we're going to flip through these, and I'm going to try not to take up too much time. But we're going to start with lot number 3582. I can hardly read some writing around here, and I certainly can't upside down. All right, this is a Charlie and His Orchestra record. You have probably heard us talk about these in the past. We played them on the Bitter Request shows. We've talked about them in the highlights reels. But this is a dance band out of Nazi Germany who takes American swing music, adds Nazi propaganda English lyrics to it to broadcast into Great Britain to demoralize the populace of England, which I don't think really worked. I think it actually probably brightened their spirits a bit. It's great music. It's a lot of fun to listen to, and the words are pretty amusing. So we have two of these in the auction. We played all four sides in the Bitter Request show. Actually, we played two sides on the broadcast portion, and we played two sides in the bonus hour section. So you will probably want, again, you'll want to pick up the CD because there's a lot of great stuff that runs probably 2 hours longer than what we actually broadcast. All right. The End of the War in Europe, Sir Winston Churchill. Lot number 3583, minimum bid $75. Here is Mr. and Mrs. Churchill in Norway for a state dinner with King Håkon on May 11th through 14th, 1948, after the war. And they were Churchill received an honorary doctorate from the University of Oslo. He was presented with that at the dinner, and just an opportunity for Norway to show its appreciation to Churchill, basically for liberating that country, and the world for that matter. I just watched a movie a week or two ago called The 12th Man that talks about, it's a documentary, well, not a documentary, but it's a story, true story of an operation in Norway during the Nazi occupation, and I would heartily recommend that you watch The 12th Man. All right, lot number 3588, Engelbert Dollfuss, Austrian recording, $50 minimum bid. He was Austrian something or other, I forget, maybe Prime Minister. 35. Should have this thing open. Okay. Just an Austrian statesman, but he resisted Hitler and was assassinated by the Nazis in 1934. That is a recording that he made prior to that time. Here we have lot number 3589 by Brigadier General Jimmy Doolittle, The Bombing of Japan, Parts 1 and 2. We played that on the show from May 20th, 1942, describing their first incursion into mainland the islands of Japan. All right, then we go to lot number 3592. Really? 3592? Yeah, these are not necessarily in order. This is Dr. Joseph Goebbels, who was the propaganda minister in the Third Reich. And he figures pretty prominently into the Bitter Request show for a couple of reasons. Lot number 3593. Hermann Göring, another Nazi-era speech. Okay, so this is lot number 3594. Lindstrom recording of Adolf Hitler, and this has a book that goes with it. Let me show you that. So this is the book, and in the back you will find a place where these two records would have gone. These are the original sleeves that they were in. And the book is filled with pictures, and so the records and the book were sold as a set, and in the auction, of course, they will come as a set. But I keep the book separately so as to not cause the records to be in jeopardy of breakage. Now this is a very interesting thing. This is something that we played in the Bitter Request show. This is a 3-record set. You see the Olympic symbol at the top on the Telefunken label. These are recordings from the Olympic Games that were held in 1936 in Berlin, and we played side 1, which is the opening of the games with the fanfare and the, you know, all the hoopla, and with Hitler opening the games. And then we played 2 bands of side 2. You can see that this has 3 bands. We played the first and the third bands. These are recordings of the actual events, the 100-meter dash and the 4x100 relay that Jesse Owens, the black American, performed in, where he won gold in both of those, and some other events, which was a real slap in the face to Nazi Germany and their Aryan supremacy idea. For a black man to come and just clean the field with gold medals was didn't go over real well, but was certainly a big boost to the rest of the world, as the menace of the Third Reich was growing during that period of time. Every little bit of good news was helpful. Okay, National Tonplatte, $35.99, $50 minimum bid, Wilhelm Kuba. All right, 3601, General MacArthur speaking in Melbourne, Australia, $50 minimum bid. Here's a record that we played, Ignace Jan Paderewski, broadcasting to America from Switzerland. Very good, very neat recording, $150. Now this is something that we played on the bonus hours. This is Quentin Reynolds, who is an American war correspondent, with a broadcast that he put together in 1941, actually 2 broadcasts. Each one of those broadcasts takes up 4 sides. So there, in this little package here, there are 4 records comprising 2 lots. Lot number 3605 and 3606. And one of those 2 record sets is a letter he wrote to Goebbels, and the other one is to Herr Schicklgruber, which he used to refer to Adolf Hitler, because Schicklgruber was the name of his stepfather. So, some very, very interesting items there. Here's a record that we played during the broadcast section. This is the last message from Corregidor, as the Americans were being overtaken by the Japanese, and the telegraph operator's message that morning as they were being overrun. Very, very moving recording. This was a broadcast, originally broadcast over the Army Hour from the Radio Branch Bureau of Public Relations, War Department in Washington. We played this in the bonus hour. This is Lieutenant General Buckner Jr.'s speech to his troops before their invasion of Okinawa. The invasion took place April 1st, 1945, And I think that this speech was recorded January 21st of 45. Mr. Buckner was the highest ranking U.S. officer to be killed by enemy fire in World War II. Lot number 3616, C.R. Attlee, MP, speech by him. This appears to be a 2-record set. Speech at the opening assembly of United Nations Organization, January 10th, 1946. Here we have a Czechoslovakian recording by their president, Edvarda Beneze, lot number 3617 for $50. French recording by Philippe Henriot on Pathé, lot number 3619. And 3620 is another speech by him. Both 12-inch records. Here's Gedankplatte, or Record of Thankfulness, from March 21st, 1933. Lot number 3621 with a $500 minimum bid. And this features a speech by Hitler. That's 3621. Yeah, on this record you'll hear Hitler, von Hindenburg, and Hermann Göring. 1933. Original sleeve with that, as you can see here. Okay, Message to the Empire, King George VI. 3622, $25 minimum bid. That was the king of the King's Speech, if you've seen that movie. The brother of the Prince of Wales, who abdicated the throne, forcing his brother to take up that position. And here's a Portrait of a Londoner by Emlyn Williams from 1940, lot 3623. Give us the tools, we will finish the job. Winston Churchill, set on Victor. Churchill speaks to Congress on Columbia, set there. Air Raid by Archibald MacLeish. We played an Air Raid recording on the show. 10-inch record, not sure where that is right now. Things kind of get moved around a bit once Mark and I finish a bit of request show. Nice gold color Columbia labels. Really attractive label by putting the gold on the field and using a dark color for the text. And finally, we have Words to Remember, Rendezvous with Destiny by Franklin Roosevelt. This is a 2-record set. These things just always kind of falling apart. The spines are often missing or coming off. So that, for now, covers our historical records section. And I believe there may be a couple of odds and ends that we will cover that's in the same material here that I haven't run across yet. But we're going to end this second section of the second highlight reel of this particular catalog, and we will come back with our high dollar stuff from the various musical genres that we see in the catalog, such as opera, classical, country, blues, personality, jazz, and post-war, and then of course our gem quality stuff. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you won't want to miss reel number 3. See you soon.